Hello, this is Professor Kim Nelson with the Jewelry Design Department at the Fashion Institute of Technology. I'm doing a tutorial today on indicating stones. This is working on a white background. The approach is quite different if we're working in against black paper. But for our class, this is for JD 139. We will be working against a white background. So, first thing I'm going to do, I'm doing this in Painter, and since this class is working in Painter, I will give some information about that as I go. I'm going to get my opacity down to 30% or so. Get a good sized brush for filling in the stones. Okay. I need to put a gray background behind these stones. I already have the drawing, it's locked. I have beads, I'm going to lock those as well, so I can only draw on my canvas. If you want to know exactly which color I'm using, it's easy enough to tell. You can look over here and it's at 187 is the value that I'm at. Okay, there is a rough background. I'm now going to come into the stones that are under other stones and build up a little bit more depth. Okay. And now that I've done that, I'm ready to start the actual shading of the stone. Shade the stone, we're going to go to a darker gray, about 128 in the Painter palette. And I'm just going to do a diagonal shading. We're going to do the pavilion of the stone first. The pavilion is a cone with a point facing down. So when the light comes in, it's going to catch shadow on the side nearest the light source, and then the light will actually light up the basin on the other side. Like that. Okay? After I've done that, I'm going to leave the small stone for now. I'm going to go to a straight line stroke, take my opacity up to around 50-60%. And, oh, that's the wrong slider. 50-60% on opacity and size about 2. I'm going to use the straight brush stroke, and I'm going to draw just straight lines coming into the center. That is a little bit light. I'm going to go down closer to 100. That's better. There is no real precision here, class. I'm just basically making the background busy. To end my stroke, I'm going to go to smooth and then back to straight. Single lines, I can just hit enter. Okay, there's one stone. I'm going to treat all the stones the same way. Like I said, when I reach the end of where I want that line to end, reach where I want that to end, I will go up and click on the smooth or curved brush tool. And then if I want any single lines coming in, I'll just hit enter. I can also hit enter on at any point when I'm drawing this. What it does is it closes it. It'll come in and end the stroke back at the beginning of where I started. Sometimes that gives you what you want, sometimes it doesn't. The important thing when you're rendering a diamond or a faceted color stone is you want to give the impression of a tremendous amount of detail without having to do a whole lot of careful work. Doing some single lines to start this big stone off, and then I'll okay. Going to do the same thing now in white. Going to take the white more opaque, 67-70%, something like that. And it's the same process. Exactly. I'm ignoring what I put down before in the black and the dark. I don't really care. That layered texture of light and dark strokes is only going to work in my favor. So, I have knocked in the basic faceting in the pavilion. Now I'm going to go in and fill in some areas. And the areas I'm going to fill in are going to be, once again, triangular shapes. And here I will borrow some of the edges that I knocked in there. And they will be over here on the light side of that pavilion. I don't care for what I did there. These two are enough. Maybe one here. And each one of these will always be down in this lower right-hand corner of the stone. I am keeping an eye on the form. If this happened to have fallen where a stone is overlapped and in shade, I would do a lot less of this light color. In fact, this stone here is kind of an example of that. This lower area is where that would be, and I'm not going to really let that get very bright. Same here. This actually overlaps on this side, so I'm okay with that. But I wouldn't put any over here, because it'll confuse which stone is on top. This one is a very good example. I might put a little bit of light in here and a little triangle of light here and call that good. Down here the stone is hanging free. I can put quite a bit of light down in the corner of the pavilion if I want to, but these light patterns are always in triangular pie slice kinds of forms. This piece is a very long streak. I'm not really liking it, but I'll leave it for now, because there are some things that may happen to change that. Alright, so that's my pavilion. Now I'm going to do the crown of my stones. The crown stones of the stone, I need to have a layer on top of my facets. So I'm going to put a layer between the drawing and the beads, because you want all the faceting underneath the beads. And I'll label it crown facets. Coming up here, going to make this even more bulky. I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to carefully draw crown facets in white. These will always be, because this is now a cone facing up into the light instead of facing down like a basin. So these will always be. I'm going to drop my grain because I want more precision. So these will always be up in the upper left corner where the light would hit them directly. I will throw an occasional facet over here if I feel like it needs it. There. That stone has enough. Going to split the upper girdle facet and split it here as well. You want to be able to cover over those black facet lines wherever you want to. That's why we're working on a layer on top, so that those dark lines don't inhibit us and make us have to listen to them. That stone's finished for the light. I want a nice crisp overlap here. So I will light up those upper girdle facets. And it would be nice to catch this facet, I think. Nope, I was wrong. So maybe this facet. It's a big stone. Yeah, that's okay. Coming down here, this becomes tricky because this stone is actually overlapped. I certainly won't highlight any of the upper girdle facets I want this stone to feel like it's in back. So I won't do a lot with its facets. That crisp triangular shape is really important to maintain. I'll call that good enough. My large round center. And class, the way that these facets overlap, that you have these highlight facets overlapping the shaded side of the pavilion and crisscrossing over the top of those facet lines in the background, is what makes it feel transparent. It's very important to the effect. That one's done. Okay, I let those facets get away from me because my brush is too large. And rather than take a minute to point that brush, I just kept trying to make it work. Not ever a good plan in traditional or digital media. Okay, I'm trying to decide how much more I want to do here. I think that's okay. And now my drop. You want a really clean, sharp effect. Always. If you need to, to get a good clean stroke, use the straight edge tool. Okay. So that gives you the crown facets. It gives you the pavilion facets. Now we need to bring in some actually dark facets. So we're going to drop down somewhere around 60. Going back to the canvas. It's important, getting back down to the canvas. And on the... Okay, that would be too dark. But that's because I have my opacity set at 74. Drop this back down to the high 20s. And basically pick one or two facets from the crown on the shadow side. Okay. So we have that now. When I can use this effect to aid in my form, like to show which stone overlaps, I'll certainly do it. So picking that shadow there. And here. And there's really we'll be doing a value exercise here in a week or two. This really becomes a question of just visual taste as to how much dark and where you're going to put it. You don't want to make unattractive chains of dark, heavy faceting, so you need to kind of break it up and let it not all happen in the same place. Okay, so now we have the piece is almost finished. I'm going to now do some softer white facets. So I'll go back to my white. I'm going to keep it transparent this time. I'm going to stay on the canvas this time so that the faceting lines don't get obliterated. And some of these buffer facets that are on the light side but not completely on the light side, for example, I will come in and maybe I'll just outline them, maybe I'll fill them in. Giving the stone what I think it needs. And you can see I'm building it up slowly to get the effect that I want. I'm going to now put some dark darks in the pavilion. So going back to my straight line tool, since I'm on the canvas, I can't hurt my beads. I can't hurt my upper highlight facets, so I'm really quite safe in coming in here and putting these shapes in. And now if I want to, I can pick a few of these to fill in. And that doesn't always need it. I don't think that one needs it. I think that one's fine. But sometimes a stone will be helped out by bringing in some extra dark. In the pavilion as well. It's basically upping the contrast of your piece. For example, here where this is actually overshadowed by multiple stones is a good place to build up some of that dark. Don't want that one. That's probably enough. Now, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself an outline in white. Very opaque. I will put it on the highlight side first. Of every stone that I can. Once again, not wanting to fight the form of, so I won't put it down in here. But I will put it here. It is on the canvas, so it can't mess with my facets that I painted on top. Because it's pure white, by the way, I can come out and if I miss a little bit, it's not going to matter. It's just going to clean up the background. Okay, so now that I've done that, I'm going to come in and put it on the pavilion light side, the opposite corner. But I'll only do that where it helps my form. So for example here, helps to show that that stone overlaps. Here, helps to show that that stone overlaps. There's really no need for it here. Doesn't really help anything. Here, where that stone overlaps. Okay? And that's really it. The last thing I have to do is this small stone. To do this, I'm going to unlock my drawing. All of those facets are going to cause me a problem. They're fine to be that detailed on a great big stone. But on something this size, you don't want it. Since it's a gel layer, when I erase it, it just becomes clear, transparent. Okay, coming back onto my canvas, I will now take this stone through its own series of steps for a small stone. Fairly transparent. Shading on that side. Going to white. Opaque. Smaller brush. Pick up a triangle. A line. A line. Just gesturing in the pavilion. And then I'll put a crown on it. Crown facets are just a square inside of a square. And if I want to put a dark facet on it, I would put it here. I would draw the bottom line of that square in a square. Clean up my edge a little bit. And that's really all I need to do with that. Okay. That's plenty of detail for that small stone. Last thing I'm going to do in here is, just because I'm picky, clean up some of the edges. I know this is part of the earlobe in my design, but it interferes with my actual stone, so I'll erase it. And that's good. That's done. Thanks for watching.